still gon' bounce through it and bounce back from it. Only way we know to do it and make them bounce. That's the only way I know to move them. And we still gon' bounce to it. It might get rough, but then we still gon' bounce through it and bounce back from it. Only way we know to do it and make them bounce. That's the only way I know to move 'em. Never married to the grind.
Yo, what's good, y'all? I'm Prince J, senior writer at Bet for the Win. And this is Prince J Live, where we talk about sports and some more stuff. Thanks for tapping in with your boy on today, May 12th. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And today I want to talk about Derek Carr retiring, Jordon Hudson banned from UNC, Netflix's Untold shooting guards. I finally got a chance to check that joint out about Gilbert and Javaris Crittenton. But first, happy Mother's Day to all of the beautiful women out there with children. Goes without saying how much y'all appreciate it. You already know. Had to send a special shout out to my mother, who I did not actually get to spend Mother's Day with. She was down in North Carolina with her mom, so shout out to my grandma too. Hope they had a beautiful day. And then also shout out to my son's mom, Bridget. We had a great day yesterday. Some good eats, some good surprises. Truly appreciate her and everything she does to just, make my son the best little boy he can be. And I gotta say, man, Mother's Day was part of the reason why I'm not gonna come in here acting like I'm the most informed about what went on in the NBA playoffs yesterday. That's tough, man. That's tough. You gotta spend some time with the family. So, I watched a little bit of basketball. I'm not gonna lie. I'm always gonna tune in a little bit. Just wasn't as locked in as I would like to be. But we can go ahead and get started with the Nuggets game. Nuggets Thunder. That was right there, smack dab in the middle of the day. What was that, like a 3:30 start time, which is what, like 1 o'clock, local time out there, in the Midwest or wherever they were in the Mountain Time. So the Thunder went ahead and won that game to even the series up 2-2, and it was ugly. It was ugly. From what I could tell, every time I tuned in, it was just a really low-scoring game. Both teams finished under 100 points. I want to say the Nuggets had like 9 points after the first quarter. It was ugly. And what I can take from that game, honestly, and so far what we've seen this series, is the Nuggets just don't have enough firepower. That's my conclusion right there. And what that means is Nikola Jokic has to go for 40 every game. We seen him do it once this series. They got the win, and he hasn't done it much. He's having a tough series, and they need everything he can give them because they just don't have enough firepower. And the way the Thunder are defending him, I'm not sure, he's going to be able to do that. I know they got 2 wins in this series, but really I feel like the Thunder are dictating what's going to happen. If they show up, they win. That's really what it comes down to. Nikola Jokic is no longer the indicator for whether the Nuggets win in this series. Really, that's Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon. Those guys, when they score 20-plus each, they've won. The games they've won, they got 20 from Murray and Aaron Gordon. When those guys don't show up, they lose. Those are the indicators right there. It doesn't matter what Nikola Jokic does, unless he's going to go off for 40 every game, but it doesn't seem like that's realistic to expect against this Thunder defense. Right? He's not even really able to go out there and give them the type of assist that we're used to seeing him put up, So and that's a reflection of what his teammates aren't giving him, right? And so it's just a struggle all around for the Nuggets. They don't have enough firepower. Meanwhile, the Thunder, we've always thought Jalen Williams was going to have to go out there and show up as a true number 2 for the Thunder to make a deep playoff run. And it seems like they're so deep, they haven't even really needed that. Granted, he had a great first round against Memphis. He's not playing the best basketball here in this second round against the Nuggets. And yet they won yesterday with him just scoring 10 points. The Thunder go 10 deep, right? They can go 10 deep with that bench. The Nuggets can't go that deep. So in a game where no one really played well outside of SGA, the Thunder still had 5 players in double digits, right? That included guys like Aaron Wiggins, Cason Wallace. And so they didn't need much from Jalen Williams, right? How deep they are kind of offsets what he doesn't give them. Meanwhile, the Nuggets, they can't do, they just don't have enough room for guys like Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon not to show up. They can, if those two, they can do with a bad Michael Porter game, right? If those two show up, Michael Porter, it'd be nice if he was more consistent, but how long have we been saying that for, right? And so at this point, the Thunder, they've tied the series up 2-2. And you're getting better odds on them to win this series in 6 games, minus 115, than you are to get them to win the series in 7, which is plus 175. I'd take them in 7. Are the Thunder going to win 2 straight games? That'd be nice, right? They just haven't seemed to be able to really put it together multiple games in a row. They should have won game 1. So maybe that's what the thinking here is with the odds. Like, really, they've outplayed the Nuggets for the majority of this series. The Nuggets are lucky to be in this thing 2-2. But that heart of a champion thing, man, right? Like, the whole reason why Denver was able to come back and win that game 1, is because they do have that intangible thing that OKC is fighting to get. And so I'll take Denver to get one more game. Give me OKC in 7. They get that game 7 at home, plus 175 odds right now. I love that. Now, the second game of the night, the Pacers just blew the doors off the Cavs. That was a game where I was fully locked in for a second and tried to watch it. But as that game started coming, as the Cavs started coming apart in that first half, I realized I was gonna be able to mail it in real early. Look, man, I'm not built for the playoffs no more. I'm realizing that. These playoffs have been wiping the floor with me, dog. Just absolutely exhausted throughout these playoffs. And halftime, I was feeling it. And luckily, the Pacers were feeling it too, because they went ahead and got the Cavs up out of there. I'm going to say they were up by like 41 at halftime. That's when I knew, oh yeah, I can go to bed comfortably. But I got to say, that blowout was surprising coming off of the Game 3 blowout the Cavs had, right? Like, I thought the Cavs finally got their guys back and we were finally about to get a series. And then they just came out and completely laid an egg in Indiana. And it's hard to completely blame them because it was just like the Pacers weren't missing anything. Like, they couldn't miss. It didn't matter who threw it up. Siakam, Obi Toppin, Nesmith hit a fadeaway shot at the halftime buzzer, Halliburton. Like, they were just knocking down everything. They couldn't miss. But I will say Cleveland looked a little confused defensively out there. Ben Mathurin went and got ejected for a little stiff jab to the chest of DeAndre Hunter, and it didn't matter. They didn't need him. Go rest up. Go rest up for Game 5, buddy. So, I guess it was predictable that Spider would cool off. Donovan Mitchell didn't have the best game. But after you drop 40 points in 3 straight games, what can you expect from the guy, man? Like, somebody else had to step up, and Darius Garland had a decent game, but nobody else really showed up for Cleveland, and that game just snowballed real fast. So I'm here to go ahead and call it. I think we can comfortably say this series is over, right? Indiana's up 3-1. I don't see Cleveland coming back. Not after a loss like that. It just doesn't. They might get one more game right, but this series is over. Indiana, their odds to win the series are just minus 350 actually, which is like, it says they probably should end it, but I would have expected that to be like minus 600, 700, 800. Like, I feel comfortable saying this series is over. Odds makers feel, the bettors, I don't know. They seem a little hesitant to really shut the door on Cleveland right now. And I'm not. Door's closed. Door is closed. if anything, you give Cleveland one more game. So what do you want to say? Pacers in 6? You think they can close? But even if the Cavs do force a game 7, sure, that puts some pressure on Indiana to close it out. But the Pacers I just don't see them losing 3 straight games with the way they're playing right now. Not to this team. Now the next round, it's another question. Speaking of the next round, we can go ahead and get to tonight's game, Celtics-Knicks, Game 4. I've been saying since the Celtics were down 0-2, I think they're still going to win the series. I think that's why I don't see the Pacers really winning, 3 straight games in the next round, because I think they're going to run into Boston, and I think that's going to be a problem. But Boston took the first step towards making that series come back against the Knicks. They went ahead and blew the doors off of New York again, and this time they kept the doors off. They didn't allow the Knicks to kind of bolt the doors back on before the end of the game. They went ahead and got them a win. So Celtics is down 2-1 tonight. They are 6.5-point favorites for Game 4, with a chance to tie the series at 2-2. Taking the Celtics to cover that spread. Listen, this thing is real simple for me when it comes to the Celtics. If they hit their threes, there's nothing New York can do to stop them. It's barely anything New York can do to stop them when they aren't hitting their threes. They've been up 20 in all 3 of these games. The first 2 games, they shot 25% from 3. They lost. They blew those leads. They lost. Game 3, they hit 20 of 40 3-pointers. They hit half of their threes, and they took 40 of them. You do the math there. That's a lot of threes. And they held the lead. What are the Knicks supposed to do about that, man? Best the Knicks can do is pray they miss a bunch of threes. And the way the Celtics shoot it, more times than not, they're going to hit a decent percentage of them. I don't love the way they play. I'm just not a fan of all the threes, personally. But, it won them a championship last year. If you're a team that can hit them, hit them. Hit them. I do think once you realize they're not really falling, you should probably evaluate the game plan and try something different. But they don't really seem to have too many gears. They kind of just do what they do, and then they win or lose by it. So whatever, it's been working for them the last couple of years. So go ahead and get the Knicks up out of here. I think that's what's going to end up happening. I'm taking the Celtics minus 6.5. The second game, we can go ahead and end the playoff talk. Second game, Wolves-Warriors tonight. The Wolves are 5.5-point favorites. Taking the favorite there too. I'll take the Wolves. Now this one, if you were on the Wolves 5.5 in Game 3, that was a tough L. Sure, you've seen by now Jonathan Kuminga hit the 3-pointer at the end of the game to cut an 8-point lead to 5. If you had Wolves 5.5, that's how you went down. That's tough. But that should not deter you from taking Wolves 5.5 again. You saw all you needed to see in that game to understand why the Wolves are the bet here. That was just a bad beat, man. It happens. It was a bad beat, but the Wolves are the pick. And here's especially why the Wolves are the pick. That 3 gave Jonathan Kuminga 30 points in the game. Jonathan Kuminga. The Warriors got a 30-point game from Kuminga and still lost. In a game, Jimmy Butler also gave them 30. That would have been the recipe to me going into that game for them to win the game. If you get 30 from Jimmy Butler and somebody else gives them 30, the Warriors probably got a good chance to win that game. And they did not. They lost. And so at this point, without Steph, I just don't think Golden State has much of a chance. And they're not getting 30 from Kuminga again. I think we can pretty much guarantee he's not going to score 30 again. Maybe Jimmy gives you 30 again. But 30 ain't enough from Jimmy Butler, man. I said this when Steph went down and Jimmy and Buddy Hield started bickering about who was Batman and who was Robin. And I said they don't have a Robin. Jimmy was the Robin to Steph's Batman. Steph is out. It's just Jimmy. which means you can't be Batman. You have to be Superman. And 30 points, that's a Batman performance, man. Sorry, it's not enough, Jimmy. And we've seen him be Superman before. He did it for Miami a lot. I'm not saying he can't do it. I don't know if it's still in him at this age, at this point in his career. But he's got to go out there and give him 40, man. They need one of those Superman performances from Jimmy Butler. They need him to go save the day until Steph gets back. Now, they're only down 2-1, so I guess they can suffer another loss. I think they are going to suffer another loss. I think they'll be down 3-1 after this game. It'd be nice not to go down 3-1, though. They get down 3-1, and then Steph's coming back hobbled for Game 5. I don't love their chances. They need this game tonight. They'll be playing desperate. I just don't think they have enough. Taking Minnesota minus 5.5. All right, we can keep it moving. Derek Carr retired. I don't know, man. That was surprising to me. Derek Carr called it quits. And the reason it was surprising was because while we knew he had a shoulder injury, the dude was just so adamant that all the reporting about the severity of the shoulder injury was wrong. Like, he was just really fighting that one. And so, it was kind of surprising to see him kind of come out and just be like, I'm calling it quits, y'all. After all the crying I did on that stage, what was it, a church? After all that crying I did on the pulpit about the reports being wrong. Let's go ahead and read this statement from the Saints. Derek Carr has announced his retirement in late March while ramping up his preparation for the 2025 season. Derek experienced pain in his right shoulder. It was his first time throwing the football at significant volume since recovering from both a concussion and left hand injury sustained during play on December 8th, 2024. Derek immediately contacted the Saints medical team. Eventually, medical scans determined objectively that Derek sustained a labral tear and also had significant degenerative changes to his rotator cuff. Since that time, Derek, his representation, the Saints medical team, and outside medical experts have worked together to determine the best path forward. Surgery was an option, jeopardizing the entire 2025 season, yet there was no guarantee Derek would return to the level of strength, function, and performance of play to which he was accustomed. Upon consultation with his wife, Heather, Derek has decided it is in the best interest of both his family and the Saints organization to retire from the National Football League. Upon reflection of prayer and in discussion with Heather, I've decided to retire from the National Football League, said Carr. For more than 11 years, we have been incredibly blessed, and we are forever grateful and humbled by this experience. It's difficult to find the right words to express our thanks to all the teammates, coaches, management, ownership, team officials, and especially the fans who made this journey so special. Your unwavering support has meant the world to us. I gotta say, man, I'm surprised he thanked the fans there. I guess you kind of gotta thank the fans, but I'm surprised he thanked the fans there because these fans, especially the ones in New Orleans, man, they have been rough on Derek. I guess they loved him a little bit in Vegas, Oakland. You can argue about how much they should have loved him, but that's the thing about quarterbacks like Derek Carr, man. He is the perfect example of why you don't want a good quarterback. Because let's be clear, he was a good quarterback. Like, I don't think there's much debate about that. Derek Carr, 4-time Pro Bowler. He's going to finish his career top 25 all time in passing yards. He finished third place in MVP voting in 2016. He was a good quarterback. In the NFL, good just don't really cut it. Like, you need a great quarterback to win consistently. Good quarterbacks get you 8-8. Good quarterbacks get you 9-7. I guess you can't really do. I'm still stuck on the old records. I forgot about the 17-game season. What is it now? You go 9-8. That's so disgusting. 8-9. You know, Derek Carr's a 7-10 quarterback. Like, he's not really going to get you in the playoffs much. And that was kind of his thing, right? He's been to the playoffs one time in his career. Is that right? Can I look that up? That's something I actually didn't have pulled up, but I want to say he's played in one career playoff game. And I don't want to put that squarely on him. Yep, just that one time in Vegas a couple of years ago. I don't want to put that squarely on him because it's not like he was playing with the best teams out there in Oakland and Vegas. But at the same time, he was part of them not being the best teams, right? He was like, okay. He was like, all right, it's Derek Carr. But when you have a good quarterback, you can't really get rid of him because it's so hard to find a great quarterback. A lot of times that good quarterback is the best you're going to get. And a lot of times it's not going to be good enough. All he's going to do is keep you from getting great draft picks to build around him while simultaneously keeping you out the playoffs. And that was Derek Carr. And that's why Saints fans had such a hard time coming around to him over these last 2-3 years. Because he was frustratingly good. He was good enough to give you expectations. Like, why can't you just be a little better? The problem is he just wasn't better. Like, he just gave you what he had. And he seemed like a genuinely nice guy, too. Which is such a sorry place to be in for someone like that because no one treated him with the respect of someone who is as nice as he is. He just didn't get that kind of respect. And so I bring all this up to say Saints fans were so ready for him to be gone that when his retirement was announced, it wasn't a bunch of tributes and, oh, we'll miss Derek. Nah, it was a bunch of don't let the door hit you on the way out going on Twitter. They are so ready for Tyler Shuck, which, look, man, I guess if you're through with the other quarterback, the best you can hope for is to see what the other quarterbacks have. So I guess they'll get an early shot to see what this rookie has. And as someone who didn't watch a lot of college football, doesn't watch a lot of college football, but when I do watch, it wasn't Louisville. I can tell you, I don't know if this guy's good. I do know there's that one video of him that's been surfacing since the combine. I'll go pull that up here. And to me, I'm just not sure if, like, my expectations would be the highest of someone who threw this pass. And if you're only listening to the audio, you can't see what I'm looking at. But this is Tyler Shuck at the combine just throwing a football with the weirdest step back little kick action, and he just sailed across her far ahead of his target. It was just the ugliest throw I've ever seen. So I don't know if my expectations would be the highest for him, but look, man, there was a lot of draft analysts who thought that he could be good, and so we'll see. They took him in the second round, drafted him number 40 overall, and all I'll say is he's not gonna just be given the quarterback job. He's gonna have to go in there and battle with is the kid's name Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler. He's going to have to go in there and battle those two dudes for that job. And I can tell you right now, that quarterback competition is going to tell us everything we need to know about Tyler Shuck. Because if he loses to Rattler, who was a 5th-round pick, and Haener, who was like a late-round pick as well, and both recently, right? These guys don't have much more experience than Shuck. He's about the same age as Haener, who's been in the league a few years, and how old is Spencer Rattler? He might be in the same age range, too. Let me see. Spencer Rattler is 24. Yeah, they're all in that 24-year-old range. I think Shuck is actually older than Spencer. Yeah, Shuck is 25. So, like, if he goes in there and he loses this position, quarterback battle to those two dudes, one of those two dudes, he's probably not as good as people think he can be. And yeah, sure, you can hit me with the, he's a rookie type thing, but he's also an older rookie. Like, you ain't got a lot of time to be waiting around for this guy to get good. And so, good luck to him. You know, wish him the best. I will say, whatever his rookie of the year odds are, I want to say they jumped up from like 20-1 to 15-1. after news of Derek Carr's retirement, and that's understandable because he has a clear path to the starting job. And if you're a quarterback and you're starting as a rookie, you got a pretty good chance. He's gonna have a battle with Cam Ward if Shook does win the position battle and he is a starter. I'm not gonna sit here and expect him to have a better season than the number 1 overall pick. But you never know. He's got some decent weapons out there in New Orleans. I think Alvin Kamara is still there, but we know Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, if those guys are healthy. So it's gonna have some weapons out there to work with. I'll tell you this though, he better be good because the Saints were one of those teams that we thought might need a quarterback. Especially knowing what they apparently knew about Derek Carr's shoulder. And they passed on Shedeur Sanders. And everything I've seen and heard about Shedeur so far coming out of Browns rookie camps has been positive. As I expected, because I think he's going to be a stud. I'm still very high on Shedeur Sanders. You can miss me with all the bad interviewing stuff. Can the guy win you games? That's what we care about, right, when it comes to this NFL stuff. And I've always been high on his ability to just play. And so all I'll say is Shook better be good or the Saints are going to look really bad for passing on Shedeur Sanders. That's my opinion on it. All right, let's move on to UNC, man. What in the world is going on in UNC? Shout out to my Tar Heel brethren out there, you know? Let's go ahead and pull this up. All right, so this is where it all started. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Jordan Hudson, Bill Belichick's girlfriend, she apparently was banned from UNC's facilities. That is per Pablo Torre. Here's the tweet from the video. Pablo Torre finds out. Sources tell Pablo Torre that Bill Belichick's girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, is now banned from UNC's football facility. One Belichick family source adds, there is deep worry for how detrimental Jordan can be for not just North Carolina, but Bill's legacy, reputation, everything he has built and worked for over decades. All right, so that was the original tweet. Now, there has been, or at least the day all of this came out, which was, what was this, Friday evening? There was a lot of movement in this story from the second that Pablo kind of reported that. So here was the statement from UNC after that. While Jordan Hudson is not an employee at the university or Carolina Athletics, she is welcome to the Carolina football facilities, the school said in a statement issued to reporters. Jordan will continue to manage all activities related to Coach Belichick's personal brand outside of his responsibilities for Carolina football and the university. So they say she's welcome. They're basically saying Pablo was wrong. And then Pablo responded. And I'm just going to go through all of this before I get to what I think of it all. But this was Pablo's response. Update. A statement from Pablo Torre. The University of North Carolina can choose to describe or change its position on Jordan Hudson's involvement however it wishes. Following the publication of our episode, we requested comment and filed dozens of FOIA requests that were not satisfied. And we stand by the specific reporting in our episode, which came from the highest levels of the football program. So, maybe she was banned, and then the report got out there, and UNC didn't expect that, so then they backtracked on it. Or maybe the specific wording of how they're saying she's welcome still leaves room for them to kind of keep her away from certain athletic involvement. Whatever the case is here, it's a weird situation in UNC. It's especially weird when it's following someone who's been previously as secretive and not wanting the attention as someone like Bill Belichick. But I'm going to tell you something that I haven't heard anyone else mention, and maybe this is just an opinion of mine that comes from how cynical I can be about stuff that stays in the news cycle too long. Because here's the thing about the news cycle in 2025. It moves, man. It's hard to grab news attention and just stay in the news constantly, day after day after day. And this Jordan Hudson-Bill Belichick thing has been taking up a lot of space, man. Like we've been hearing about this, talking about it for weeks, it feels like now. It's not going away. And to me, that is purposeful. Right? Like you don't just keep creating headlines to stay in the news. Obviously, Bill has a book to sell. I've been on it early that I think a lot of this attention Jordan is creating purposely to help Bill promote his book. That little sit down interview where she's jumping in, she knew people were gonna talk about that and make it a whole thing. And ultimately, look, man, there's a thing called outrage marketing, right? Now, not that people are necessarily outraged. I think people are just more so confused about everything. But whatever the case is, it is a marketing strategy, right? To just get on people's nerves. And ultimately, I don't think Bill has ever really cared about his public brand. So he doesn't care whether it's gone from positive to negative or whatever. Bill doesn't care. All he wants to go out there is go out there and win football games. And we'll see how that goes, right? Like if he's not winning on top of all this, then he'll probably have a problem. But right now he don't care. And then Jordan, what does she care? We didn't even know who she was a year ago, right? So now we know her. We're talking about her all the time. She's on the people website every day. Like, so I think I don't think Jordan minds negative PR either. I think a lot of this is PR, man. That's just my personal opinion. And I'll tell you why. There is a reason why I think they're going this route. Again, I might just be cynical. I think this is manufactured because think about what the story was when we first heard that Bill Belichick had a 20-something-year-old girlfriend. What was the initial reaction to that? It was gross, disgusting. How could he? No one was really judging Jordan, at least not initially. Maybe people were looking like, what was she? Maybe there was a little bit of, oh, she's clearly in it for the money. There was a little bit of that on the side. But for the most part, it was this disgusting old man is taking advantage of this young girl. That's what it was. And if she's 24 now, she was a lot younger when they met. I don't want to get into that. I don't know the exact timeline here, but that was the conversation. Over the last few months, though, as we've learned more about Jordan, again, I think purposefully, I think all the attention she's gotten has been manufactured. People, the narrative is shifting. It's almost gone from no one's really looking at Bill as negatively as they were before. At least not in a negative lens of you are a sexual deviant taking advantage of this young girl. That's not what it is anymore. You're a nasty old man. It's not that anymore. It's more so, hey, your reputation is getting ruined by this. Now that's the narrative around Bill. It's about his reputation. I guarantee you he cares a lot less about that. It's, you were the greatest coach of all time. Now this girl is ruining your brand. Now it's about his brand, right? And I can guarantee you Bill doesn't care about the brand. But that narrative shift is important, right? The last thing Bill wants to be known as after he retires and he goes away eventually down the road is that he was a nasty old man. And Jordan, she can take the bullets, man. She's young. She's got time to kind of clean up her image at some point. She doesn't care, right? So she's taking these bullets, man. I think this stuff is a lot more calculated than people are giving it credit for. Even down to her interrupting his interview. What was that? Good Morning America, whatever it was he was on, and she kept jumping in. Number one, I don't think that the clip that they aired is as uncommon as people think it is. I've interviewed people. I've interviewed very high profile people, and I've been interrupted by their PR people telling me we're not going to talk about that. Now, where it gets weird is Jordon obviously has a conflict of interest in the whole conversation, right? Because she's the topic, so it looks away when she's saying we're not going to talk about that, and people are like, oh, she clearly is stopping him from talking about their relationship. But PR people do sometimes set a set of topics to the side that they say we will not discuss this. Sometimes, and you as an interviewer can agree to the interview or not, and say, if we can't talk about that, I don't even want to interview. You have that option. But if you agree to those topics, then they're off limits. Now it doesn't sound like she gave them stuff that was off limits. And so that's where it gets weird. They're going to ask it. She jumps in and says no. Then the interviewer, that's up to you if you want to keep pressing it or not. And they clearly kept pressing it. And then apparently she interrupted a lot more and from what we didn't see. And so that's where it does get a little weird. I still think a lot of this stuff is manufactured, man. I think that she knows that if she goes out here and acts a little crazy, it's going to get attention. And call me naive, man. Call me stupid. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but all I know is they've been in the news a lot, and I don't think that hurts them necessarily. Like, Bill is still getting paid by UNC. He still got a chance to go out there and win games. I don't know, I don't know if this is hurting his recruiting necessarily. I don't think that the kids he's recruiting necessarily cares. I don't think that him being in the news so much hurts him from a recruiting standpoint. It's still Bill Belichick. And then I don't think it hurts Jordon, which, by the way, congrats on your third place in the Miss Maine competition yesterday, apparently. I think she probably wanted to win, but, hey, podium position, congrats. I don't know how much that news affects that type of stuff. I don't even know how judging goes with that. I'm guessing it doesn't impact that much at all. But yeah, I think that we're going to keep hearing a lot more about them, and I think a lot of that is because they want us to. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up with Netflix, man. The Shooting Guards, the Untold documentary called Shooting Guards. For those unfamiliar, that is the Untold, which is a fun series, man. I like a lot of those documentaries, but the latest one called Shooting Guards is the story of Javaris Crittenton. I think I always say that name wrong. I think it's technically Javaris Crittenton. I say those T's a little. I really get into the T's. Crittenton, and Gilbert Arenas, the gun situation with the Washington Wizards. As you can see right there behind me, I got my Porzingis bobblehead. I am a Wizards fan, so this was a story that was very close to me personally, growing up out here in the DMV, and I definitely wanted to give it some time, so I finally sat down with it, and a lot of the details, I guess, of the actual gun incident I was familiar with and remembered. But what really filled this whole thing in for me and colored the lines was the background of Gilbert Arenas. And I'm just realizing that I still got Pablo Torre up here on the screen. Let me get myself up here on the screen. The story of Gilbert Arenas' background. He didn't grow up with his mom. I never knew that. And Crittenton's background, right? He didn't grow up with his father. And so they really filled the lines in about who these two guys were before they met. And what it did for me was it connected a lot of dots. It painted a picture of a sad story about the cycle of broken families. Right? Gilbert growing up without his mom, he was raised by a single dad. I don't think he had much compassion. I don't think he He was a very compassionate person. And by the way, he came out of this looking like a whole asshole, which wasn't hard, right? Like he kind of personifies that anyway to this day. Like he just seemed like I've always thought Gilbert came off as a bit of a immature asshole. But especially back then, you really see it. And I can say as a Wizards fan, back then, I didn't think Gilbert was an asshole. I think, over the years after his retirement and after he kind of seemed not as compassionate about the stuff that had gone on in his past, and as you kind of saw this personality on social media, that's when it was like, oh, this guy's kind of nuts. But back then, as a fan, who didn't necessarily follow him off the court much, he was just our hero, right? He was our best basketball player. He made the Wizards relevant again. I don't even think I realized how relevant the Wizards were back then outside of DC. Like, obviously here, it was the best team we had ever had for the Wizards. When he was, paired up with Caron Butler and Anton Jameson, and we were going to the playoffs and losing to LeBron every year or whatever. But obviously here, I knew how much we loved the Wizards at that time. I don't even think I realized how big Gilbert's star had grown outside of here. Just because I wasn't really getting outside of the DMV back in that time as much. And so the documentary really painted a picture of how big of a star Gilbert was at that time. But when you see his background and the fact that he didn't grow up with his mom, and he kind of coped with that by just turning into this prankster. He was just always on joke time, I guess, to kind of mask the pain. He didn't have much compassion, and so he would just like push people's buttons. He was a button pusher. And then you look at Crittenton on the other end of that. He was someone who didn't have his father in his life. So I feel like while he grew up, he actually seemed like a person who I might hang out with more than Gilbert. Like, just from a personality standpoint, he just seemed like a much cooler person to be around. But he didn't really have like a structure of just like how to handle stuff, right? And so, he obviously had a temper. He didn't have a blueprint for how to handle things as a man. And that was just a perfect storm of events that led to what happened into that locker room, especially Javaris coming from the Lakers, where he got into trouble out there, apparently joined a gang. Again, not having that structure. You're going to seek it outside of, in places where you probably shouldn't be seeking it. And so he becomes this person who gets into that Wizards locker room and doesn't really know how to handle this non-compassionate person who plays too much. Right? You got one person who plays too much, and you got one person who doesn't like to play. And it just boiled over to the point where Gilbert keeps pressing this thing about, hey, you say you got guns, you're going to have to show me. And Javaris doesn't know how to take that. Like, he wants me to show him, I'm going to show him. I'm going to show him. And I came out of the thing just really sad about the whole thing, because these broken families, I feel like, led directly to that, which led to another broken family. Javaris ended up killing that young woman, whose name is escaping me right now. But now her kids have to grow up without a mom. And it just continues the cycle, which is why it's so important for, number one, people to not create these families. Hey, stuff happens, man. I'm not here to judge, but I'm just telling you, this was a perfect example of why it's so difficult to raise kids with a single parent. Because there's certain things, certain ingredients that you got to put into them. And if those ingredients are missing, it can create a whole problem down the line for them. And that created the problem for Gilbert, which created the problem for Crittenton, or they brought their own problems together, and that created a problem for these kids of the mom who ended up getting killed. And for those who don't know the story, after the whole incident with Gilbert and the guns, Crittenton couldn't get back into the NBA. He kind of just spiraled into a situation where he was back home in Atlanta, not working, and dude, you made it to the NBA. Dudes think you're rich. You got this money. You're back home in the hood. People are gonna try you. People were trying him. He got robbed, and then eventually he got to a point where he was sick of being targeted, and he decided to go get the guy who robbed him, and he shot at the dude. Ended up hitting an innocent bystander, a woman, in her leg. I think she bled out. She was a baby, man. She was really young girl with a few kids, and now her kids don't have a mom. And so, you come out of it feeling bad. You don't even really come out of it judging Javaris. You feel bad for him more than anything, which is a tough place to be in because he killed somebody, right? And he's not in jail now. He got out early, so obviously there are people who feel like that young woman's family didn't get the justice they deserve. But you never really look at the thing feeling like he was a murderer or intentionally tried to kill her, and that doesn't make it better. But you really come out of it feeling bad for her family, him, and then you look at Gilbert and you feel bad for baby Gilbert. Like, you can tell like there was some pain he was trying to mask, but then you also feel like, man, what a dick, right? Like, what a dick. And then this is also another story of why therapy is so important. Everyone in this situation needs therapy. Gilbert Arenas needs therapy. Javaris Crittenton needs therapy if they haven't gotten it already. The young lady who was killed, her mom needs therapy. You can see the pain still in her mom. Javaris's mom needs therapy. You could tell she was still in a lot of pain over everything that went down. It's just a lot of people in this story that needs therapy. But yeah, man, it was really sad. Really well done documentary, though. I think they hit it from all angles that it needed to be told from. They had, testimony from people who were in the locker room and seen everything go down. Nick Young, Andre Blatch. Hey, man, Gilbert was such an asshole that they had footage of I think it was Alvy's story, former Wizard, trying to fight him in the locker room, or he did fight him in the locker room. I never knew about that. Dude, he seemed to be another person who just didn't really take too well to Gilbert's antics. And just so you know, it wasn't just reserved for the young player Javaris. Like, Gilbert played too much with everybody. I think that was very clear from the story. But yeah, man, that was really good to catch up on, and I recommend y'all go check it out. That's where we'll leave it for today, man. Appreciate it, everyone who tuned in. We'll try to get this thing going live at some point, but today wasn't a good day to go live. But go ahead and hit that like and subscribe. We will catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of PG Live.